our topic was teachers as researchers. Just so you know, we're in an infant room, so based off of that. Our topic is a lot different than I know a lot of other topics that are going to be presented. I think it's mainly due to the fact that infants can't tell us what they enjoy most or just say what's the most exciting about the particular activity that they do. So us being researchers are us using our observations and watching what do they truly enjoy about this activity, what are they most interested in, and that kind of led to our whole main topic here. So our background, we take it back to before we even got here. The other interns that were here and the master teachers in our classroom spent a lot of time focusing on movement, like watercolors, which you can see, this is actually later, but it's similar things. So just watercolors on the late table. They spent over 20 to 25 minutes focused just on that activity, watercolors itself, which knowing infants, they can't spend that, that's a long time for them to focus. So then they did other activities such as bubbles and just water moving, and that's when the break happened and we jumped in. So the first thing that we did when we got back, we tried the liquid watercolors on the light table again to see if they still had that interest, being a few weeks away from it.
And we found that the activity didn't really last long, and we just realized after asking questions during planning that it needed a little bit more teacher engagement.
Yeah, so then we kind of switched to figure out, did they enjoy actually observing the water move on it, or did they enjoy causing the movement of moving their hands around, making the waters mix together? So we went and did a buggy ride to look at leaves that were falling, and we also did another activity of dropping objects into water to see if they liked causing the movement or observing the movement.
And then we found that when they were observing the leaves falling during the buggy ride, they weren't as interested as we thought they would be. But when they were dropping the objects into water, they were more interested in it, and they liked watching the different movements that they were creating inside the water.
And then so we wanted to kind of almost double check that that's why we're not going to base it off of just one or two activities that we did. So we provided 2 more activities. We took a big class field trip, and they went on a buggy ride over to see the waterfall and to see if they were interested in causing the movement of the waterfall. And we also did light shadows, which is kind of our main topic now, and using an overhead projector and a screen in our classroom so that they can cause the movement of the shadow with their hand or other objects.
So when they went to go observe the waterfall, we found that they just weren't as interested. We're not sure if it was just because it was the distance, they were too far away to really realize what was happening. But we found that when they did the light shadows, the students were distracted by the environment, which made us reassess.
Yeah, so we wanted to bring the environment closer to a space that they were very used to and felt comfortable in. So we did a light shadow activity in our school, and our first time we did it actually in this room, but it was still an environment that was too distracting for the students because we don't spend a lot of time in this room. And so we kind of kept going over and over, and then we tried it in 109, which is the classroom next to ours, and then we moved it eventually into our classroom. And the closer we got to just being in their most common environment, we can tell that they were most focused in.
Yeah, so so we found that they were still distracted by the environment, but then eventually as we narrowed it down, we found that the children did make some connections to the shadows that were being created from the overhead to the screen, but we also found some of the younger children found it scary.
Yeah, so we wanted to then use a smaller group of students because we did it with a bigger, larger group of students. And so we had only 2 or 3 students go at a time to do this activity so that they could really have the teacher support, because it was a lab student in the classroom as well when they were working on it. And so with having someone right there next to them, it kind of made it seem a little less scary that someone's there to help them, because a concept of shadow, especially for a student that young, is very hard for them to grasp the idea of. And so us leading to this focus took a lot of teacher guidance throughout it so that we could help with any like questions, or if they kind of had a confused look almost, or like we're trying to make that connection. We tried to like, we would put our hand on it, and then we would use our pointer finger and hold their hand, guide them to like point towards the shadow, and then we would look at our hand, move our hand on the projector, and then check so we could see the connection between moving our hand under the light and seeing the shadow on the screen as well. And it did take a while to get to this point. There were times where the students would just run around the screen because that's a new large object in the classroom, so it did cause a little distraction at first, but once we were able to get them to focus on making that connection, they really dialed in on it.
Yeah, three of our students actually like really discovered that the shadows were being created on one side of the screen.
Yeah, because when they went over to the other side too, it was backwards.
Yeah, so they were like
so they couldn't see the light shining onto it. And then so going from here, like what's next, we have, we want to use different sources of light to create shadows. We don't want to have the students make the connection that shadows only exist using a projector onto the screen. So we're going to use flashlights in like a covered dark area so we can shine the flashlight and move our hand. So that's a different light source. And we've been trying to get outside to use the sunlight as our shadow, but recently it's been very gloomy, so we haven't really been able to do that during times when the students are awake or not needing a diaper change. So that's where we want to go forward with this project. And I'm going to pass around this book. This is just some experience journals that relate directly to our project, and then on the opposite side it explains how it relates. Peek. Okay, so connecting our research to an article, being that our research was a little different, it was also kind of difficult to find an article, but we did find one that related almost directly, but it was also the only one that we found. And so there's a quote from the article that reads, "The teacher researchers monitor students' reactions to and perceptions of the new rigor and educational experiences in general." And it goes on to say, "The point is simple, you need to get to know your students and truly know their ways of reacting to certain situations." So maybe the student is excited all the time, has a super happy face, but that could just be them normally. It may not be because they truly enjoy that activity. So you really want to dig in to make sure that you know if they're enjoying it, if they're not enjoying it as much. And so we want to make sure that like our observations are really clear and that they can help us move forward with our research. And so we pay attention during all the lessons and we look for what the students are truly interested in to help plan our future.
And then as like a reflection overall, we found that the more times we asked like the question why, the closer we got to finding out like what the specific interest was in the students, which is how like we are being like researchers. And we also asked the question what, like a lot, like what happened during this activity, which also helped narrow down to like the exact specific interest that was happening within the students.
Yeah, the time that we spent during our planning, that was back and forth. Those were the questions that we kept asking, and it helped bringing all of us together to ask these questions, because I may have viewed a certain student enjoying an activity where maybe Sydney thought, oh no, we did it later, and they didn't enjoy the activity. So maybe was it the time of day that we did the activity? Was it the space that we were in? And putting all of our connections together really helped us see if they enjoyed it or not.
Yeah, so asking those questions like really helped narrow it down.
And that was very easy.
So, very interesting. It's so different than what you do in a P12 classroom. What did you find most beneficial or challenging, or both, about the process that you used?
There were definitely both beneficial and challenges to it. I think the most beneficial to me was really like, we spent so much time focusing on like individual children during an activity, so I would kind of plan like, oh, I'm going to do this activity with these 3 students and really focus on this one to see if they really like it. So then going into like an older classroom next semester, I can really kind of pick out to like who I really want to focus on and see if they really enjoy it. I think the difficulty of this was, I mean, simply they can't talk to us, so that was kind of, yeah, like the benefit helped that. So trying to like truly find out what they enjoyed without just giving them an activity that's right in front of them, they're gonna do it. They're gonna participate in that activity. So trying to find like what they were most interested in was
Yeah,
really
I
different.
thought like the most beneficial thing was just like thinking as a researcher, because that's like can help you like as a teacher in any grade. And so like just thinking about like asking those questions while you're doing an activity yourself in your head can help you like later on too.
So you didn't talk about working with Jisung and talking with her about everything you were doing this semester. How do you think that influenced your work?
I think it was helpful because like she was also asking us questions. Like we did a lot of interviews with her, so it also helped us like think again, like a second or third time about what we were doing and why we were doing it. So I thought that was helpful.
It also helps too because, well, she's writing like her paper and everything on this exact topic, so we were able to help her and she was able to help us at the same time. And so yeah, like Cindy said, asking like those questions to us, we asked those questions in return, but about the students rather than the way we thought about it. And also like just the help that we'll ask those questions